So, Jeffrey, I want to come to you now because
Mhm.
we don't have time to get into all the details of your trial. Your case is very different than a lot of other Espionage Act whistleblowers in that you denied the government's allegations, you went to court, you fought them, um, you have maintained your innocence. I think people are going to say, "Oh, Chip is just friends with Jeffrey." Of course, he says, Jeffrey was in the right, but having looked at that evidence and someone who does have a legal degree, I mean, the government did not prove its case against you beyond a reasonable doubt. I mean, if I was teaching a law school class and I wanted to put together a textbook case for reasonable doubt, I would put forward the facts your attorneys put forward at that trial. Okay, you had one of the strongest cases for reasonable doubt I've ever seen. The jury still returned a conviction. They heard from Condoleezza Rice. I think the Eastern District is the only place in the world where the person who's most famous for saying don't let this smoking gun come in the form of a mushroom cloud would have any veracity. Um, and in the third indictment against Assange, they used this conspiracy to commit computer intrusion charge, which is separate than the 17 Espionage Act charges, to bring it into general allegations. All of this, quite frankly, information about Assange that will be very perceived very derogatorily in the Eastern District, and that information that, absent this conspiracy charge, I think would be barred from a courtroom because it has just no probative value other than just prejudicing the jury. When a jury in the Eastern District hears some of these things, that like names like Chelsea Manning or that Julian Assange alleged or not allegedly did try to help Edward Snowden seek asylum, that he spoke at conferences where there were hackers, that he gasped, shock, disapproves of the U.S. wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. What is going to be the impact of that information on a jury in the Eastern District of Virginia? And what are the chances of Julian, if he is, and we're all hoping this never happens, extradited to the Eastern District, getting anything resembling a fair trial?
The type of panel he's going to face in the Eastern District is going to be completely biased against him. My panel, just about every member of the pool from which my panel was drawn from, had some sort of tie to the U.S. intelligence community. So there's going to be a leaning towards upholding the standards as presented by the government of what is expected out of those who work in that area, and automatic belief about the dangers presented by the information that was revealed at question. The thing is, with the Espionage Act, it is such a broad stroke that instead of having legal specifics, all the government really has to do is get involved in character assassination, and that is exactly what they've been doing with Assange for years. It's going to come down to if he does face trial uh, under the Espionage Act here in this country. It's going to be a continued character assassination because the government will not have to present any evidence of harm. They won't have to reveal to Assange any evidence against him if they consider it classified. That tactic did not work for me because any of the classified information that the government wanted to use against me, I had already had access to. So there was no way that they could justify denying my access to that. Well, Assange won't have that sort of guarantee. But he's going to face a panel that has already seen his image basically equated with a terrorist to this country. The viewpoint is going to be skewed against him and in favor of the US government. And that's what he's going to be facing. It is completely one sided and biased, again, with that broad stroke of using the Espionage Act, which can bring in just about anything, but the government won't be required to actually prove any of their charges. So he is fighting. If he does eventually end up in trial, it is an impossible task to fight against the Espionage Act. I had some guarantees of our Constitution that were actually not used for my benefit, but Assange won't have any of those guarantees.